running like crazy, Beck, and we're getting a lot done.
Well, you are running like crazy, and you are getting a lot done, and that's good. I'm hanging out with family.
Oh, okay. Is that diligence?
It is,
Running
because
like crazy?
it depends, though. I mean, if you're just running without purpose, without aim, not
Right.
so much. But
Right. But what I find is, of course, there's a lot of proverbs and things like that, you know, the diligent hand makes rich and the diligent will rule and things like that. But there's diligence that, just for diligence sake, like, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Like if the goal is to be diligent,
Right.
you've kind of missed the whole point of it, right? Because diligence is actually supposed to produce something in
Right.
our life. So the goal isn't to be a diligent person, but diligence is a key component, a characteristic you have to have
Right.
if you're going to be
Yeah,
successful.
that's right. So it's more than just a New Year's resolution. I'm going to be more diligent this
Yeah.
year. Because I find that there's people that are really diligent, like productively diligent, are that diligence is driven by passion.
Yeah.
It's not just like I'm going to try harder.
Yeah.
And so there has to be vision and purpose, or diligence. Well, it's not going to exist. The truth is, you know, like when we train our kids to be diligent, you know, especially the young boys, you know, you got to take the garbage out and they forget, and you tell them again and they forget. You need to be more diligent. Well, they don't really care if the garbage goes out, so that's why the diligence isn't there.
Yeah, that's right.
But in the ministry, because we care about where we're going and what we're doing, diligence is a component that comes along, and it's, I don't know, is it enjoyable?
I don't know that enjoyable is the word, but the fruit that you reap from it is
Right.
the reward, right?
Right.
Because diligence takes a lot of persistent effort. It's kind of like, I think a clear analogy would be the guy that goes to the gym because he feels like he needs to go to the gym every day.
Right.
Well, he might go to the gym, but how effective is his workout going to be? He might hang out there an hour because that's what's in his schedule, and he lifts a few weights here and there, but he's mostly just, you know.
Right.
But the guy that, like, I'm trying to get fit or I need to lose X amount of pounds,
Yeah.
when he goes to the gym, the amount of effort and work he puts into it is
Right.
different, right? So diligence is going to cost you something, and it's not going to be enjoyable,
Right.
but you're not going to reap anything if you don't have it.
Yeah, that's right. And Paul's take on it in Colossians chapter 3:23, he says, whatever you do, do it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not man. And so there again is that purpose behind it. If we're doing it for a vain reason,
Yeah.
right, or a miscalculated reason, then it's not going to be diligent. But we have to have diligence in order to grow.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
diligence is going to produce growth, right? It's going to produce expansion. It's going to produce fruit. Hard work gets the job done, right? So we have to have diligence to grow. And we often talk about, well, growth begins here, right? Like the first thing is that we're going to grow ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. I think one of the things that people sometimes, I don't know, confused with diligence is we kind of think of like, where does it come from? Does it just come from like a decision that I make? But I think what you said there is very key, so I don't want to just quickly go over it.
Right.
You're motivated by what you're actually trying to produce, right? So when we talk about how we have to grow ourselves, the key for diligence working in our lives is we have to actually have a vision of what we're trying to produce in ourselves first,
Right.
right? What kind of a leader do I want to be?
Right.
What kind of, what kind of a thing am I trying to produce? What kind of leaders am I trying to produce? Who am I actually growing? So
Right.
if the picture isn't clear for me, who I have to be in order to be effective in the people God's called me to minister to, then it's easy to lose sight of diligence because you have no measuring stick.
Right.
Am I doing well? Am I not doing well?
Yeah.
Your measurement is how you feel. And I felt like that went well, so great,
Yeah.
But if you're not aware of, these are the areas that I need to be better at as a leader, maybe my communication skills, maybe my time management skills,
Right.
maybe my exercise, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? If you have a clear picture that starts here, then it helps you to have a clear picture with the people that are out there.
Right. So then when you're thinking about diligence, like, it's obvious to tell who's diligent, who isn't, right? I mean, we don't want to confuse that with efficiency. Some people are more efficient, right,
Yeah.
in the way they do things.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between the diligent and the non-diligent. How do we then, what kind of steps can we take to get people in our teams, right, to come on, let's work together, let's do something together? Because the leaders are usually the diligent ones. They're running in circles around everybody else.
It's true, yeah. I think, well, it starts like with what you said. Number one, sharing the vision, making it plain, making it clear. And I think also the motivation has to come with, here's how you're going to benefit from growing. Here's
Right.
how you're going to improve yourself. If we don't have a vision for ourselves, it's hard to be excited about a vision for anything else.
Right.
And you can tell if somebody is diligent because they're driven, right? Like when you look at the definition for diligence, it's vigor. There's like kind of like a drive there. There's a, what do you call it? Like an attentiveness, a carefulness. You're not just running around like a chicken with your head cut off.
Right.
It's focused, it's attentive, it's careful is one of the other words, you know?
Right.
So if we are spending time with people, explaining what it is that we're trying to produce for the kingdom and produce in ourselves too, then it helps people to become diligent.
For sure, yeah.
And I think the other thing is people have to know that diligence is a responsibility. One of the things that I've run into with people that I'm trying to lead is a lot of times they think that they're failing because of my leadership. And sometimes it is, you know, but it's like, well, if you did this better, or if you told me this more often, or if you, but it actually works both ways. Because if I'm always going to be waiting for somebody else to give me what I need in order to be able to complete what I have to do, then there's no diligence there. That's just you know, and it's same with my own walk in my own life. Like there's things that I need from the people that I'm leading, but if they don't provide me those things that I need, I have to be diligent enough to go and get it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the truth is, when diligence is like driven by a passion for a vision or a purpose or something like that, diligence will figure out what to do, right? You don't have to be told what to do. I mean, in any given situation, work situation, or working on a project or whatever, there's a gazillion things that need to be done. And if you don't know what to do, then that's a lack of diligence. It's not necessarily a lack of leadership.
Yeah, that's right.
And so if we really promote obviously the vision, right, and the purpose, like you say, then people will know what to do and they'll figure out for the moment. Because that's the thing, diligence has to figure out for itself. I mean, when you think about that, the diligent will rule. Well, who's telling them what to do? Nobody. They've just got what it takes to recognize what needs to be done, and they go ahead and work hard and get it done. You know, and the same thing, the diligent will prosper. Well, you're putting your hand to the plow when you're planting your field and you're growing it.
That's right. If you look at the opposite meaning of the word diligence, it's laziness, you know, ineffectiveness. And I think sometimes we want to give ourselves an excuse for why we're not doing our job as well as we are, because I'm missing this or lacking that. In reality, diligence covers over those excuses. It takes those out of the equation and puts the responsibility squarely back on you again to figure out what you need to figure out.
I've got 3 components here that I wrote down when I was thinking about this. You know, the growth begins with growing yourself, growing your capacity, growing your skills, your wisdom and knowledge, which is a big thing in Proverbs. Seek after wisdom, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that kind of thing. And it doesn't come by working hard on a task. It begins by working hard to grow yourself, all right? And we've sort of covered that. What does it mean to grow yourself? Well, there's 3 components that I've put down here. The first one is you got to want to.
Yeah.
And people that don't want to, they don't, right?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be a drive there. And so again, there's got to be a vision for your own life. You got to see the benefit to you because you will see the benefit to us then. So if you got team members that are lazy, not growing, not investing in themselves, it affects the whole team, right? We all lose. And so diligence makes everybody win. So it begins like with that want to, that desire. The second thing is the resources. You know, it's kind of the seek and you'll find thing. And a lot of people, like, we kind of covered that a bit already, like, well, I just don't know what to do. Well, this is time to seek, right? This is time to knock and find and figure it out.
That's right.
Because it's there for you. And if you'll pursue it, you will find it.
Yeah, amen.
So, and the resources are a big thing. And, you know, honestly, it's why we do these podcasts, right? Is to give you just another resource. And this is a key one because it's coming right from the heart of the platform, the Victory Asia platform. I mean, it would be beneficial for anybody to listen to it, but particularly people that are motivated and passionate about the same vision that we all have together. Right? So the resources are there, and well, I tell you what, we work really hard to produce the resources, and I think the people that tie into those, you know, I was just sharing on the little announcement thing that if you don't have more input than output, you'll be stale, dry, and won't have anything to say. So, and you think about this, preachers particularly, well, I don't know what to preach on Sunday. Well, it's because you're not getting input. I have no trouble figuring out the 20 things I could preach on Sunday.
Right. And oftentimes the issue isn't that there's not input around you. It's that you don't recognize the value of what's around you, right? That's one of the reasons why like coming to Summit is so key. And if I ever hear, which thankfully I haven't yet, but if I ever hear a leader say, do I really need to be there?
Right.
That's when like big warning bells flashing,
right.
emergency, you know, because you've now, you no longer recognize the value that's in the wealth of the people that are around us, you know.
Right.
Sometimes it's just in a conversation with another pastor that God quickens an idea in your heart or gives you an answer to something that you're stuck on. And so if we don't value the relationships around us and we no longer see, like if you feel like there's no input,
right,
you got a problem.
Oh boy, yeah, that's so true.
Holy Spirit, open my eyes,
Right on. And I think too, this particularly the summit coming up, well, we feel this about it every year, but Young Lions one, there is going to be so much creative and release of ideas and people bringing input. I mean, that's what we're pushing for right now, is to get people to really bring something that's never been brought before.
And the reason why we want that creative expression isn't because we're just trying to do something new.
Right.
It's because it shows the growth that's happening in our own life, right?
That's right, yeah.
And if you're growing, then you need to release it in a way
that's right.
too.
And there's nothing like the amount of input you get at Summit.
Yeah.
Like, it is just overwhelming.
That's true.
Like you say, in every conversation, you know. And again, it's kind of that thing like the familiarity. We've got to really break that, guys.
Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to be familiar with your team and your leadership and that kind of thing. Just recognize, you know, we come to Canada here doing the VW tour, and people are like, whoa, where do these people come from? You know, like, this is so amazing, right? Well, if you're in that all the time, you tend to not think it's amazing anymore. But the truth is, it is amazing.
Yeah, what God's doing in your life is definitely amazing.
That's right. And what your leaders are carrying is amazing, right? What you've got, what your leaders, and the team members too, is absolutely amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody new can come along with a fresh set of eyes, and they'll see the amazingness, but we can become so comfortable and familiar with it that we miss it. And the third one is a skill. And that's a really measurable way to know if we're diligent or not, is how are our skills developing.
Right.
And we've got to be developing new skills all the time because everything's changing.
Yeah.
We've got to minister in new ways all the time.
That's right.
So the skill development is really important, and that's part of diligence. Without developing your skills, again, back to you, right? Growing yourself.
Yeah.
And skills are a fun one, really.
Even the things that you're good at, because I think sometimes when you do something for so long, you feel like, I got this in the bag, right? I communicate all the time, so I'm already a great communicator. Or I write all the time, so I'm already a great writer. But that's where we actually, we sabotage ourselves.
Right.
Because unless we're consistently growing, then that skill is actually going to begin to regress and die, you know?
Yeah.
And there's always new methods of sharing the same message. There's always new things that are happening culturally. There's always new ways that people are receiving information. And so if we ever feel like we have this in the bag, then we've actually put a lid on our capacity immediately. And eventually you won't have it in the bag. Other people around you are going to advance and grow. The way that we communicate is going to change, you know. The guys that used to preach the way that used to preach back, 100 years ago, you never see that.
That's right.
Back then they might have been the best, fieriest, most, it doesn't work anymore. And so even the things that we feel like I'm already good at this, we want to be paying attention, confronting people, correcting people, communicating, preaching, sharing, writing, singing, everything.
That's right. And it's always got to be growing. If there's diligence there, that will make it grow. And so, see this old car here, Beck?
Amazing. We found another old car.
I know, hey? They're just everywhere, aren't they? Because they're such treasures. And this was a rust bucket. But it doesn't look very good, but it is smooth. This is down to like 400, what do they call it, grits per inch. You can't even feel the lines on it. It's just about ready to spray the color on, the cherry red color. And the amount of hours that went into, welding, filling, pounding, bending, sanding, it's got like 7 coats of primer on it already.
Wow.
And every coat had to be sanded by hand. So there's hundreds and hundreds of hours invested in this. It wore the fingerprints right off of my fingers.
Now you can go commit a crime.
No, nobody will know who it is. Well, I have to only use these 3 though. But that diligence carries the beginning of the vision through to the end.
Yeah, that's right.
You're
going to finish what you started, right, Dad?
Absolutely am. Not everybody does,
Yeah.
And Yeah, and when I was young, I made a lot of money by picking up projects that people didn't finish.
Yeah.
And just finishing them a little bit and selling them.
Yeah.
I revel in what diligence produces. I don't feel like coming out here and standing on this thing again and again and again and again. But diligence is what, because you see the end result, right?
That's
And it's
right.
going to be beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah, so because of that, you finish what you start. You don't give up, right?
That's right.
You're going to do the job right.
That's
the
right,
other thing that diligence
absolutely.
does. You're not going to, jump steps to try to take shortcuts.
Well,
You're going to do it right.
people are going to look at this to see if I've done it right.
Right.
Like all the hot rodders are going to be, they're going to
Yeah.
go over it, see if it's smooth.
Yeah. And it's going to take dedicated concentration, right, on the
Right.
work that you're doing.
Sure is, yeah.
And you're not going to allow how you feel about the project
Right.
to determine what you decide to do about the
That's
project. I think
exactly
that's probably one of the big struggles that leaders have with the fight of diligence is, especially when you first start something or whatever, you're so excited about it.
Yeah.
And then, 1,000 hours later, and you're
Yeah.
looking at the same computer screen and you're going, I'd rather do something else. It's easy to jump to something new
Yeah.
and not complete what you've already started.
it sure
and
is.
it's easy to have a good reason for it.
Yeah, right.
But the reality is, if we don't know how to finish what we started, then we're never going to be diligent. We're never going to produce
right.
something that's going to be long lasting.
It's
We
the
have to push
biggest
through.
downfall that I've seen in leaders is not finishing what they started
Yeah.
or quitting.
Because
or
they
whatever.
lose excitement about it, right?
Yeah, right.
Because it's not planted in vision, you
Yeah,
know?
right,
The
that's right.
reason why I will do hours of administration, even though it's not my joy,
Right.
is because I know that it's necessary
Yeah.
to accomplish the vision, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason why we do all of the tasks that are boring and seem like menial is because we understand the vision behind it.
Right.
If we don't do it, this thing will eventually fail.
That's right. Be diligent.
Be diligent, yeah.